the dollar, and I think Michael Saylor's talked about this too, the dollar actually maintains its dominance by getting backed by Bitcoin, which is a pretty wild idea, and I certainly haven't crunched the numbers on it or figured out how that could be, but I think the best possible scenario is that for the US dollar. I think the worst possible scenario is kind of a global surveillance system set up with the digital yuan, the CBDC, or as a competitor, the U.S. and other kind of democratic nations revert to a more totalitarian form of digital currency like the CBDC. So I certainly hope Bitcoin wins, and I'm doing what I can. And I think there's a peaceful way of an alliance where Bitcoin and the dollar kind of forms an evolution, so to speak.
Yeah, and Dalio said, history doesn't have to really repeat. Maybe technology could change the course we're on, but for sure, if we maintain this course, we can look back to history as to what happens, and it's typically not good. There are other, structural things that need to be fixed. Like, obviously, I don't want to go down too far down this path, but the morality of your people and the education of the people and the technology and all kinds of other big things that are going on inside of a country and stuff. So, but I really do hope that the rising power is this new technological power, which is Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, which could right all the wrongs, hopefully. But
yeah, hopefully in a peaceful way. I don't think it needs to be a collapse of the government or collapse the dollar for Bitcoin to become king. And if it happens that way, those that are holding will probably be okay. But we don't have to do that. I'm not a fan of human suffering either, as I'm sure no one in here is. So hopefully we have the evolution as opposed to the revolution.
I'm down for that. Is there anyone else that has an opinion up here on stage? Guys, make sure you're sharing out the room. We're getting very close. We're about 10 minutes out. Alex will be joining us here shortly to answer all your questions, especially about Celsius. But we'll also ask him his opinion as to what's going on in the world right now, what his thoughts are. Feel free to join us up on stage. We've got myself, Zach, and Scott from Celsius here. And then we've got some great additions here: Plan C, Alexandre, Otis, Socknug, Jason, and Tricuno. Notice we got someone coming up. Jason, what's going on?
I was just thinking, when we get mass adoption and most people use the US dollar to purchase crypto, isn't it in the best interest of the government to adopt it?
Repeat that bit again.
I was thinking all right, so we mainly use the dollar to purchase crypto, right? Now, wouldn't mass adoption bring more stability to the dollar?
I think from the government's perspective, it's scary. It removes their control. It removes a lot of their surveillance ability. I think from their perspective, it's not such a good thing. So,
do you guys have any thoughts on the bill? It seems like a couple of days ago we had a little bit of a move up because people felt like the Biden kind of government stuff was positive, I guess, in that there seemed to be going in the direction of regulating the space more than anything, like KYC on exchanges and kind of clamping down on the industry rather than actually trying to, say crypto is going to go away or we want to outlaw this, that sort of thing. So it does feel like regulation is kind of the path moving forward, and ultimately that does lead to ETFs and things. So yeah, just wondering anyone's thoughts on that, and then also just to do with this is speculation, but stable coins. I mean, at some point, if the U.S. and other countries really go strong in the regulation direction, I mean, could we see stable coins basically merge with CBDCs?
Yeah, I'll just jump in real quick. I think that the government understands and sees they can't stop Bitcoin. They can't stop it. So my opinion is they're trying to figure out how can they get some sort of control over the citizens and the money, and how can they get their share? How can they get in on what's happening? So you saw it when they passed the legislation. I think this was, I forgot the date. It was either last year or 8 months ago or something around that time, where they passed this legislation that allows banks to hold Bitcoin and hold people's Bitcoin. And to me, and I'll never forget, because Alex Mashinsky said, no one's talking about it right now, but this is a significant moment right now, a very pivotal moment. And of course, it's going to take time to roll everything out. But I think the government is putting pieces in place to where they can either tax it like you won't believe, or do some sort of, I don't know exactly how they would do it, but some sort of control to where maybe not, because no one can control Bitcoin, but they may control the tax part of it, or who's allowed to do what. I don't know the fine print on all of that, but I do know that they're looking for active ways on how can they be a part of this, how can they get their fair share, and most importantly, how can they continue to hold people down? Just like I've heard of them changing what's an accredited investor. I've heard talk about that, about raising those limits. So I think they'll try to find ways to try to keep the pyramid in shape and in check. And I think that's what they're doing now. I think they're really exploring how can they do it. And so it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. But I do think that they understand that Bitcoin can't be stopped. So they have to immediately find a way to get involved and do something, whether it be their own, like the Ruan, or just tax the heck out of it, or raise the accredited limit to try to make less and less people accredited investors. I'm not sure how they're going to do it, but I think they're scrambling to find it. That's my opinion.
It's a good opinion. I didn't sift through the bill or really read it in depth, so I don't want to give too much of an opinion on it.
Yeah, I mean, the executive order itself was really not much of anything. I saw Mark Yusko talking about this, that they really didn't say anything concrete at all, and it was all just about, oh, we should take a look at this and build some guidance and find a way to regulate the industry, and we want to be innovative here. So it's like it was neutral positive in the sense that nothing bad happened, and it looks like they just want to put out a regulatory framework, which I think they will. I think we're getting close to some sort of regulatory base that companies like Celsius can move forward from and understand, how do you want us to run our businesses, and how do you want to offer these products? And I think it's going to lead to much more innovation and companies offering way more than they are today, because a lot of companies are just waiting to hear what we can and can't do so that we can provide more services, right? We don't want to provide services that are going to get blocked in 6 months. So it kind of created a position of just waiting until more certainty arises. And that's what the executive order sounded most to me like, providing some framework and more certainty for business.
Rob, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, man. What's up, guys? So I just wanted, I agree with everything that Zach and Scott are saying. And I thought it was interesting the way Jason framed his question. He said, when we get mass adoption, what will the governments do? And I think a carte blanche answer to that would be that I don't think you're ever going to get mass adoption until you have governments that support it and understand it. I mean, think about what we're at now. We're at like a fraction of a percent of people in this world own these assets, right? You're not going to, until the government gives a thumbs up to say, hey, it's okay for your bank or for you to hold this, and here are the exact rules you have to follow. I don't think you're going to get any mass adoption until that happens. That's just my personal opinion. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, just every person I talk to just randomly at bars and on the streets here in Tampa, a lot of very wealthy people, You just even mention the word crypto and they're just like, oh, I'm not going to touch that thing. I don't know what the heck that is. I don't know what it is, why it's there. You have a conversation with them. They're just like, I'm not going to waste my energy because the government doesn't trust it yet. So I'm just like, all right, well, TBD on that, I'm sure. So
here's the next question. It may seem a simple answer, but who is the government? Who is the U.S. government? Is it Biden by himself? Or is it all the corporations that sit behind Biden and just sit in silence that are making these decisions?
yeah, Otis, that's an interesting question, especially if the US dollar is no longer the reserve currency, right? Who is actually in charge at that point, right? If the power starts to shift to other countries, who's actually the man behind the curtain, or the men behind the curtain, or the woman behind the curtain, whatever it is? It's an interesting question, yeah.
Presidents come and go, but the system stays exactly the same.
Yeah, and presidents, I think, just a figurehead, right?
Yeah. So who is the
There's
government?
people behind it. Yeah, it's a good question, yeah.
Good thoughts on that. Crypto Cat, welcome in.
Hey, everyone. I got two questions. First question is kind of piggybacking off this conversation. Have any of the speakers seen any evidence that a central bank might actually already be quietly accumulating Bitcoin? Because the idea is that once any central bank realizes that it's either unstoppable or that there's a percentage chance that it's unstoppable, obviously they're going to start accumulating. I'm just curious if there's been any kind of evidence that shows that that might be happening, but they're obviously not releasing that information. And then question two is, because the title of this is Bitcoin bottom, sellers exhausted. I'm curious if someone would tell me what's like the strongest piece of evidence, like on-chain data, TA, whatever. What's the strongest piece of evidence that shows you that we're at a bottom? And then what's the opposite? What's the strongest piece of evidence that shows you that we're actually not at the bottom yet? Those are my questions. Thanks, guys.
Plan C, do you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. I mean, there's a couple, but I would say dormancy flow. That's a metric that, a couple different people have been posting. You can look at it through Glassnode. Can you hear me, or is it audio's bad?
C, okay. You're breaking up. Just get to a better place and then let me know.
Okay, sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so one of the main metrics that we're noticing is a lot of Bitcoin is exiting exchanges, which typically means that selling pressure is alleviating, at least here in the short term. So that's like one of the main data points I've noticed. Obviously, there's a ton of geopolitical stuff going on, and it's tough to predict. But that's like the biggest indicator. If Plan C,
and as far as he was asking, governments around the world accumulating Bitcoin, isn't it rumors that China has been accumulating Bitcoin for a long time?
Yeah, that is a rumor, and I would put that particularly.
And also, he said central banks, not governments.
Yes, so it's always possible. I don't know what the probability would be on that, but I do know that there are entities in this space accumulating for sure, and they don't want people to know.
I would just say regarding central banks, I think if one central bank is doing it, I think they're all doing it. Central banks, they're all connected in some way. It may not look like it, but all central banks, in my opinion, they're all connected. That's why you can wire money from the U.S. to China. There has to be some kind of correlation. So I think there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't even know about. I'll just give you guys a simple example. About a year and a half ago, my home country is Jamaica. I got kicked out of Jamaica because I had someone in Jamaica that got me a Liquid account, and Liquid sent an email saying, "Oops, we can't operate in Jamaica anymore." And I said at that time, you never see smoke without fire. Right now, Jamaica is about to test a CBDC, a small island about to test a central bank digital currency. So I think all of these central banks, they're connected. They're all connected.
Yeah, that's a great point. And then I've seen also, I think the website's called bitcointreasuries.org or something, .com or .net. But for the last couple of years, it did look like Ukraine, various government departments had like $300 million of Bitcoin. Obviously, we know that El Salvador. I'd seen that. So, sure, I heard rumors of China. I don't know that it's that probable with their extreme anti-Bitcoin stance and the digital yuan. But I believe anything's possible, and definitely seems like Ukraine is more Bitcoin than any other country in the world, which opens an interesting conversation for any theories on that, but I'll leave that aside. But anyway, yeah, that's what I saw on bitcointreasuries.net.com.org. I don't remember.
Alexandre, you're starting to break up a little bit as well.
I'm sorry.
But we did catch the majority of that. Just wanted to let you know. Plan C, are you back? Did you get your audio straight?
Yeah, let me know if it's okay. Are you hearing me all right?
Yeah, it's a ton better.
Okay, great. Just to answer the previous question. So there's a metric on Glassnode called dormancy flow. I won't go into the specifics of how it works, but yeah, you can go on Glassnode and take a look at it. Basically where we're at with the dormancy flow, the last 3 times we were this low was the bottom of the last 3 basically cycles. So that's a very strong metric pointing to we're at the bottom or we're very close to the bottom. So that metric bottomed out when we hit 33,000. And like I said, it was exact same pretty much levels the last 3 bottoms of the bear markets. Another metric that would argue we're close to the bottom would be I have 2 floor models that when they cross, the last 3 times that happened was within 29 days of the floor. So the first time that cross occurred, we were 29 days before the bottom. The second time that cross occurred last cycle, we were only 15 days below the bottom. And then the last time the cross occurred was actually on the day of the COVID crash. So that cross, these 2 floor models I have, has called the bottoms within 29 days the last 3 times. And that cross actually occurred again 9 days ago. So it doesn't mean it'll happen. It's just going based on the last 3 data points. It has happened 3 times in a row. Doesn't mean it'll happen this time. But yeah, that's an argument that the cross is near or has already occurred. But the one thing I'll say, just to your other point of this not being the bottom yet, the last 3 times that cross happened, we actually capitulated down to my floor model, which is currently at 27,000. So you could argue the cross just happened 9 days ago. If history repeats for a 4th consecutive time, we would have a capitulation close to 29K before we'd actually move up. So I can kind of argue in either direction with that, but either way, I believe we're close. I either believe the floor is in or it's going to be in within the next 2 months. That's just my perspective.
CryptoCat, did that help give you some answers?
Yeah, that's awesome. So thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining us up on stage.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Make sure you share out the room. Let everyone know that we're live. We've got our main event here with us. And if you'd like to join us up on stage, just tap on the mic in the bottom left. There's a lot of people tonight up on stage already, so you might have to wait a few minutes. Just hang out in the request till I get you up. Alex, welcome up. How's your night going?
Hey guys, how's everybody doing?
Doing good. We've covered a lot in the last hour. Actually, we've discussed has Bitcoin bottomed and what metrics we're seeing that kind of shows that happening, and then we've also covered a bunch of things geopolitically, things that could trigger the crypto market to go up, like the XRP case, the ETH 2.0 launching, or any of these random geopolitical events, coming to an end, or what's going on with the Federal Reserve. Could you? I know that's a lot I just threw at you, but could you give your opinion on what you're seeing in the market? What do you think is going to happen tomorrow with the Federal Reserve and how that might impact the market? And yeah, just I guess generally what your kind of outlook is.
Well, like you said, there's a lot of bad news that the market had to deal with. On top of what you just said, again, China cases are exploding in COVID cases are exploding in China. There's obviously a lot of commodity prices are going crazy. The war, uncertainty about the Fed. All these things are already priced into the market, and we're seeing risk assets taking a hit every time. One of these things is being in the news or being, hit on us again and again. But Bitcoin actually was trading a very tight range throughout this period, meaning it was not really reacting to a lot of this bad news in a very aggressive way, like we saw in the beginning. So it looks like many of the people who wanted to sell sold, and now volumes are low, and effectively people are ignoring the news, right? Most of this is already priced in. So it doesn't mean it can't go lower. I don't think we've seen capitulation yet in the stock market. So we should see a flash crash on high volume instead of what we're seeing in down days, which is down sideways action with not that much volume. And so I think we should see the VIX go a bit higher, probably kind of spike above 40 with a capitulation bottom with a high volume. And that's probably going to be the bottom of the market, right? So again, we're not seeing that behavior for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin may be saved here. But, it may not. It may go through the same kind of a flash crash. I think we already had most of the liquidations. People who were effectively margin long were all liquidated. So there isn't that much leverage in the market. So it's just a question of how many people are selling when they are going to sell when they see stock markets and other markets go through capitulation, right? That's really the question that no one knows yet. And just because stuff happened the same way several times before doesn't mean that this bottom is going to look the same like the last time.
Is there anything in the Celsius data that is indicating to you that there's like a sea change happening, or are we just like in a accumulation phase?
Well, the Celsius community usually adds assets as we go through these flash crashes. So most of our users continue to HODL and add on or average in. So we're not seeing any change in behavior from other cycles. And, I think, again, there's a lot more uncertainty here, many more moving parts than just a recession or collapsing economy or inflation or whatever, right? So we have like 10 variables here. And when you try to solve an equation that has 10 variables, usually you get at least half of them wrong.
Got it. Thanks for giving your opinion on all of that. I'm going to roll into the QA part, unless you have anything else you'd like to say.
No, all good.
All right. I'm going to try to orient myself here, guys. Alexandre, I'll start with you. Do you have any questions?
I was a bit of a change of mood, and perhaps this is not something for the AMA, but just curious. Definitely very happy with the Celsius products. Are there any other coins that are kind of being looked at to be added to Celsius Earn product?
Yeah, so we plan to add 50 new coins this year. So we're trying to hit 100 assets, and many of these are going to be, some of them are going to be yielding, some of them are going to be assets that our community already holds. But the idea is to enable our users to have a very broad access. Again, we don't recommend asset. Your job is to do the research and figure out what you want to buy or sell. We're just gonna make sure you don't pay fees and don't, you earn as many coins as you can, right? That's the whole point. So we'll be announcing many of these in the coming weeks. We're trying to do at least one every week. So sometimes they come together, sometimes they come separately, but that's basically the schedule.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Sure.
Awesome. Just a reminder to the group, if you're just joining us, share the room out, let everyone know that we're live here. And if you want to join us, tap on the mic in the bottom left. Plan C, do you have any questions? All right, looks like Plan C stepped away from his phone. Otis, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. Regarding Crypto.com, I believe last week they stated all loans need to be repaid by the 15th, which is today. Do you know if that's because they have a liquidity crisis, or is it because have more to do with regulation?
I don't think it's a liquidity related issue. I think, again, they moved too fast. They advertised all over the world. They were hoping to do like a blitz, which they did, and now they're a little bit of indigestion because, again, regulators are chasing them everywhere, saying, hey, you're promoting your services in our country, you don't have a license, this and that. So I think they just had to take some action, and again, they're making it harder for all of us to follow them because, all the regulators basically set up even stronger or more, I would say, draconian rules now that that Crypto.com did a blitz in their country.
Okay, thanks. I did have another question, but I can't even remember it right now. Oh, you said you were going to give us some numbers about, accredited investors earning in CEL. When can we expect to see those numbers?
Yep.
Yep, go ahead.
I've got data on that that I'm trying to get out this Friday. So just pending some approvals and trying to get that out to everybody on the AMA this week.
And the last thing, we've seen the SEC go after BlockFi and regulators go after Crypto.com. In your mind, is there have you gotten any inquiries from the SEC, or is there anything that you can possibly tell us why they haven't looked at you, being that you have under management $20+ billion? Or is it because you've basically seen this movie before from the 90s and you actually just knew what was going to happen and you prepared?
Yes, we continue to talk to regulators all over the world. They definitely don't like us revealing or talking about any discussions that we have with them. These are confidential discussions. And, again, sometimes they just tell us, hey, you need to change this and that. Or here's the new guidelines that we're issuing. Or we have some questions about your service and things like that. So normally these are ongoing conversation. They're not, normally regulators don't just come to you and accuse you of stuff and try to put you in jail, right? They have a conversation. So I don't, I think in many countries, including here in North America, the regulators are trying to protect the consumer. They're just trying to learn about these businesses first. And, our job is to provide them with the information. Their job is to regulate, right? So we're waiting for instructions of what they want us to do.
Is there anything you can tell us about what happened in DC last week when you went to see these politicians / regulators?
So Washington is has many different opinions. Not like everybody there agrees on anything. So sometimes you go to visit the people who are already friendly to crypto, and sometimes you get the opportunity to kind of educate people who are less knowledgeable about the space. So we do both, and there's several organizations in DC whose entire purpose is to help the crypto community get its message out. One of them, for example, is the Digital Chamber of Commerce, which has been doing a very good job in keeping the politicians on both sides up to date with the real, I'd say, driver, the truth, not just the thought that they hear or see in the news, that many times is driven by banks or other institutions that may have an agenda. So we at Celsius, we routinely spend time, again, educating both sides about why this is important and why the future of the United States needs to have a strong tech industry and very strong crypto industry that obviously we're one of the leaders of.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Alex.
Yep.
Thanks for your questions, Otis. I'll circle back to Plan C. Plan C, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I just was wondering what Alex's thoughts on one of the, I guess, DeFi kind of legends recently just stepped away from Phantom and Yearn Finance and a bunch of projects he was working on. And there's a lot of speculation on, potentially a crackdown in DeFi, or maybe he got a tap on the shoulder, or, he was told to essentially, he's shutting down all these websites. So just wondering what Alex's thoughts are on, just the kind of the events that occurred with that.
You were cutting out in the beginning, sorry.
Oh, sorry about that. Just one of the legends in DeFi just recently stepped away. He was like a big player, I guess, in Phantom and Yearn Finance and a bunch of DeFi projects. And so, people are just speculating on if there's going to be a DeFi crackdown, or why he stepped away, like if he got a tap on the shoulder from regulators or something.
Yeah, you mean Cronje? I don't think, again, he threatened to do this several times before. And every time he came back, I know this time it looks like he's never coming back, but I bet you he's going to come back. So I don't think it's driven by regulators, but I definitely think that over time, DeFi projects are going to get much more scrutiny and be looked at much more closely, especially if any of these oligarch or nations or other people who are basically on this restricted list use DeFi in any way to move money or try to launder money or anything like that. So if anyone thinks that the regulators don't understand, or the different agencies in the United States don't understand DeFi or don't understand all these transactions, I bet you they're monitoring every address and they know exactly what's happening at all times. So the industry has to take leadership and basically create best practices so that we don't lose users, we don't lose the technology or the innovation. And obviously, losing Cronje is not a good thing. I mean, he was one of the pioneers. But I'm giving it more than a 50% chance it's coming back.
Looks like Plan C might have lost service and fell from the stage. But if that didn't answer his question, I'm sure he'll be back to come up on stage. I'll move on to Norman. What's going on, Norm?
Can you hear me?
Oh, sorry, Norm. Go ahead.
Well, go ahead, finish up.
Oh, just a quick, just Alex's thoughts on Ethereum compared to these other layer one competitors, right? Because like Ethereum has already been, I believe, classified as a commodity. I could be completely wrong on that, but just from a regulation standpoint, like Ethereum having an edge, being that it's been around longer versus some of these layer ones, and just the fact that, maybe they feel like they can control Ethereum a bit more at this point versus some of the layer one protocols. Just Alex's thoughts on Ethereum versus the competition from a regulation standpoint.
Yeah, so the main advantage Ethereum has is that it's sufficiently decentralized. So it's not so much an issue of how much time has passed, but rather the distribution of the coins. If Vitalik had 60% of the tokens or coins, then the SEC could claim that he's still in control of the project, right? So sufficiently decentralized is really the definition. The definition is not how much time has passed or, what's the value of the project or how many times these coins change hands. Ethereum is much, much more decentralized than anything else, right? So it's Bitcoin, probably the most decentralized. And then Ethereum, because Ethereum had an ICO, Bitcoin didn't have an ICO, right? So Ethereum had a kind of like probably something that the SEC could have said, look, we don't like how you got started, but currently it's sufficiently decentralized. So it has the best chance out of all DeFi platforms of basically not being regulated or not being subpoenaed because of all the things you mentioned before.
Okay, awesome. That answers my question. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming up, Plan C. All right, Norm, what's going on?
Hi, guys. I was going to ask, everybody was kind of giving their opinion of the status of Bitcoin, and to me, it seems like there's some basic, the thing that Biden did by releasing that paper, it seems like he set the kind of the mission statement in the various areas to basically learn and understand what's going on in these different areas and how we're going to gather data about them, and then we'll take some action after we understand it. I like that. I like that idea, what he did. It's starting from like back to basics and starting from a sort of a common understanding of everybody in it. And because of that, I had a question. Alex mentioned, did you say there's an organization that was kind of like a middleman that was, did you call it the Digital Chamber of Commerce? What did you call that group?
Yeah, the Digital Chamber of Commerce is a nonprofit in DC that is basically like we're one of the members. There's a bunch of other members. All the big crypto guys are in that group.
Oh, okay, that's wonderful to hear, because that was going to be kind of my hope that everybody would be getting together to do that, to be able to provide the data that, in the various areas that Biden mentioned. And the other thing that I saw last week, which was good, was when the European Union decided that they won't be against the proof of work, energy thing that Bitcoin and currently Ethereum and others use. So I think that caused a bounce in the Bitcoin price. When Plan C went over those 29-day thing, one was 29 days, then there was 15 days, then it was right on the money. So were those for Plan C? Was those 4-year cycles that you were talking about?
Those are just every time those specific models crossed, right? Like, and it's not a ton of data points. It's only the previous 3 times. I just thought it was noteworthy that when that cross occurred the last 3 times, it was within 29 days of the bottom, right? And that cross happened again 9 days ago. So yeah, again, like Alex already mentioned, there's so many other factors compared to previous cycles. Like he said, 10 variables at least. So
right. Well, my question is, were they the 4-year cycles, or
those were, so the 3 times those crosses occurred were 29 days before the bottom of 2015, 15 days before the bottom of 2018, and then on the day of the COVID crash, and then it happened 9 days ago for a 4th time. So again, I don't know if history will repeat 4 times. A lot of factors. If it does happen, the bottom it could be lagging this time. The bottom could already be in. We don't know, right? No one knows.
Okay.
So
yeah, no,
it's
I was just curious. Yeah, whether, because 4-year cycle, the halving thing and stuff. It sounds like you were in a 3-year. You were looking at the chart versus the time, and I was just wondering on the time element whether it was a 4-year. It sounds like it was more of a 3-year thing. Anyway,
I'm not really. Yeah, I don't personally really. Yeah, go based on the 4-year cycle or anything like that myself. Like everyone has their own opinions, right? So for me, I'm just looking more at the current data, the current climate, and then trying to at least approximate what could occur, right? Yeah. So I just feel like a bottom is either in or will be in within the next 2 months, but that could change with so many factors, right? That's just what the on-chain showing. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any preference on time or charts. I just thought if it matched up with the 4-year, that would be a little more evidence to other things that I've seen. That's all. Okay, those are the only comments I had. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming up, Norm. Crypto Cat, welcome back.
Hey, this question's for Alex. Alex, circling back, when you were talking about kind of your engagement with DC politicians, the ones who seem opposed to crypto or fighting against cryptocurrency or seem opposed to it, if you had to I was curious, like if you had to kind of quantify like your sense of how much of that is either from ignorance of what it is, they don't know, or they just personally disagree, or how much of it is the bidding of commercial banking or central banking interests. I'm just kind of curious on kind of if you've kind of got a kind of sense of like proportions of kind of where the disagreements coming from or the opposition in that sense. Thanks.
Yeah, so I've been talking to political figures for the last few years, and I can tell you that definitely, like if you go back to 2015 or 16, it was mostly politicians representing the interests of large groups like finance or banking or whatever, and they didn't have any second opinion. They just had the opinion that was written for them by these different groups that are mostly lobbyists in Washington, right? So in Washington, for every politician, there's like 3 lobbyists, right? So from different groups. And you can see that more recently, if you look at 20 or 21, there's definitely a shift where the same politicians, even, some of them got reelected, some of them are new, are listening much more carefully to their constituency, like the people that actually vote for them instead of the people that pay for them to get reelected. And they understand that saying bad things about crypto or going against crypto is going to endanger their chances of staying in power or being reelected, even if they can raise the money from the bankers or the investment bankers and so on. So from the financial guys. So I think, and you're seeing that with mayors, you're seeing that with governors and so on. I was just in South by Southwest over the weekend, and the mayor of Austin, for example, declared out of nowhere that he's going to look to put 10% of the city's treasury into Bitcoin, right? So people don't just make such an announcement during a huge conference unless they're trying to get favor with voters, right? So I think we're seeing it across the board. meaning shifting towards being more polite and more friendly to crypto. But the political regime is fickle. So if a lot of money shows up, they'll change their opinion. All right. I mean, they're not saying these things from conviction. It's not like they're suddenly went down the rabbit hole and they're attending these Twitter spaces and they're cheering for Bitcoin or Ethereum.
CryptoCat, did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. That's very interesting. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming up again. CELturian, what's going on?
Hey Josh, am I coming through, mate? Because I'm having connection issues.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Right, brilliant. A couple of questions, Alex. I'm just wondering if you've got an update or a refresh for the kids at home on the UK sign-up situation.
I didn't get the question. What was it again?
Basically, a refresher on the UK sign-up situation. Is there any updates, or can we have a refresh on the situation for people who may not know?
Yeah. Well, the FCA has a March 31st deadline, which is the end of this month, and they're going to basically decide on all the cases that they have, one way or another. They did issue a few more guidelines and kind of statements about specific companies. So I hope that we'll get some guidance by the end of the month.
Yeah, I missed all that. It was cutting out, but I'll catch it in the recaps tomorrow. Also, as well, just before New Year, you mentioned a particular word, and the word was Spartan. Does that have anything to do with a certain Spartan council?
No, Spartan is like a insurance protocol. It's a DAO. So
right, okay. So it's nothing to do with synthetics.
No, it's a insurance protocol that we're working with to see if we can use that for insuring the community's assets.
Okay, interesting. Thank you very much.
Did that conclude your question, CELturian?
Yeah, it did, Josh. You can drop me down now, mate. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks for joining us. Crypto Liberty, what's going on? Crypto Liberty, if you're there, you go.
Yeah, no, I don't have any question at this time. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that. Rob Hames. Rob, are you there?
Yeah, what's up?
Do you have any questions for Alex?
No. No, sorry. You can throw me down if you want.
I think I might have been the Robs.
I was going to pivot over to you, but yep, go for it.
I'm sorry. I was just curious. I know it's several weeks old, but remember in Canada there was the event with the truckers that resulted in an emergency order that froze certain people's assets at banks and other platforms. Within a proximal time period, 4 of the 5 largest banks in Canada went on the fritz for a while simultaneously, with both problems with online access and ATM access. I still am a little, I still think that's a concerning issue. It was never, really clarified in any media that I could find what happened. The speculation was that they may have been, or the government may have chosen to stave off a potential bank run. I was just curious if you had any visibility into what happened with the banks, and how unusual is it to have an outage for 4 or 5 of the largest banks simultaneously?
Yeah, I think that's one of those conspiracy theories. I mean, again, I don't have more information than you, but Canadian banks are very well capitalized. I don't think they have a problem with cash flows or capital or ability to operate or any of their services. I think when the ATM networks, all that stuff is interconnected. So there's a problem on one network. Usually it does affect other banks and other networks because they all share information about your credit limits and how much you withdrew every day. So when when one network has a problem, usually that results in other networks, basically either slowing down or stopping services just so they don't create a double spend problem. So I don't think, I think it's a coincidence that it happened during the strike, but I don't think Canadian banks are in trouble.
Thank you. I was just wondering if, that's probably the most logical answer. I was just thinking if there were ever a similar situation, you look at what happened in Russia, et cetera, it seemed like it would be an easier task in this day and age as opposed to like 1929 when people were lining up at the door, that banks could just, deny access in various ways technologically. But thanks very much for your answer.
Thanks for your questions, Rob. Next up, Jay Gels, what's going on?
Oh God.
Are you okay, brother?
Phone shutting down. Overheated.
Okay. All right. I'll circle back around to you. Okay, Hardy Sailor, you're up next.
Well, it's hard to beat that one. Hi, everybody. Alex, I had a question about the credit card. It was really more about the competition and was wondering what you thought of Crypto.com's pretty significant bait that they're using to attract folks to the card. I have to find it's pretty compelling myself, including the work that they're offering to do on behalf of the token itself, staking and interest and things like that. Is there anything along that interests you? I know that they build stadiums and stuff, but the card itself is pretty attractive. So appreciate your take on it.
Yeah, so I think they have teaser rates or teaser rewards, and you're really paying for it by taking capital, locking it in their token, and then locking it for 90 or 120 or whatever, 180 days, right? So there is a cost to that. There's cost to capital, and you may not think about it. You'll say to yourself, "Hey, it's only a few $1,000s. I'm locking it in for 3 months or 6 months." But that's basically in normal cases, because the rates on crypto are so high, it's actually more than what they're paying you on your card. So and you're taking directional risk on CRO, right? So if the CRO goes down, you may lose some value during that period. So I think it's all about understanding the cost of capital. Like if you took the same dollars and you put them in to earn interest, and you compared that to what you actually got in your card, I think you'll actually earn more money by and you're not going to have directional exposure to the dollar, right? Versus CRO. So, I mean, it has attractive rewards, but I don't think if you deduct the cost of capital, then I don't think they're as attractive.
Okay. No, I buy in all that. Appreciate that. Then can you tell us maybe a little more about what the new card or cards are going to look like when they come out, and when, if you got a quarter, are we still looking at 2022 for these cards?
Yeah, so in the last AMA, I think you saw Prakash, the head of the product. He was on the AMA talking about June, July launch. That's going to be like a test launch for a few thousand people, and then September general launch. So that's the schedule right now. And again, we're trying to get a card that's not going to have any of these, gotcha features or anything like that. So it's more about kind of stuff you use every day, every month, and it's better than all the other options you have.
Will it? Okay, one last question, and I'll sign off. Will it have any relationship to tiers or utility in the token itself, CEL token?
So we'll be adding functionality in stages. We want to get the card out. So I think when we launch, it's going to have kind of basic services or basic settings, and then we'll be adding or layering more and more stuff on top of it.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming up, Hardy Sailor. Duke, you're up next.
Oh yeah, I had a quick question about multi-collateral loans and if there's any update on that.
We are launching a new flows, I think on March 22nd for loans. So it's going to be in the app. It's not kind of the full multi-collateral, but it's definitely going to make it much easier for you to open and close loans. And again, since we don't charge any fees, you can open multiple smaller loans on different assets. I know it's a little bit more work, but it actually gives you more flexibility as far as which one you want to close and what you want to pay off first and things like that. So it's not full multi-collateral, but the flows are going to be much, much more smooth and fast on March 22nd.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks for coming up, Duke. Jay Gels, you all situated?
I think I'm good now. Phone overheated. The Queensland heat can be brutal with this phone app. Thanks for having me back up. Just wanted to ask a couple quick questions, get some clarification. Is there any kind of update you can give on the CEL token roadmap right now?
Zach, you want to take it?
Yeah, still waiting for legal approval on that. We've got it submitted and ready to go, and just waiting to launch it in a way that will be legally approved.
Great, that answers that. So obviously, I just was talking about the Queensland heat. I'm in Australia, and some specific jurisdictions, countries, are, from a regulatory standpoint, more difficult to get swaps out and some of these different products, which is, fine. It'll come through when it comes through. I was just wondering, in the background right now, are we working on getting specific products up, like limit orders and all that kind of stuff that might be able to be rolled out in the interim while we're waiting for some of this regulatory stuff to come through?
Yeah, on like swap features, that's in development now. So it's not like we're just working on more areas and then we'll wait for more products. They're developing more features for swap product right now as we continue to expand the deployment of it.
Awesome. That is fantastic to hear. And I just wanted to ask one more question. In terms of the way that Celsius does its business with its loans that it gives out to different businesses, what previously happened with the Badger DAO hack and all that kind of stuff, when there's specific contracts that you guys have with different institutions and all that, I was just wondering if you guys are looking for any kind of way to decentralize more of that process. I know there's specific projects in the cryptocurrency ecosystem right now that have decentralized justice protocols with decentralized juries that they put together for contract disputes and all that kind of stuff. And if you guys are looking at any kind of integrations that way.
Well, I would say a lot of that is still experimentation. I've seen more cases where DAOs are not working properly, and there's, again, debates and disagreements between the founders and the DAO participants versus things that are working smoothly and in concert, right? So I think DAOs are still kind of babies, and again, Celsius is still the longest paying platform for yield every Monday without any problem, without any issues, without any votes or arguments or whatever, right? No one's leaving, no one is quitting, no one is changing protocols or whatever, right? So I think we have a very clear, smooth, proven formula, and for people that want to sleep well at night, that's the winning formula. If you want to be on the computer 24/7 and you love the chaos and the commotion and voting and worrying about smart contracts and everything else, then you can do DeFi. You can be a DGen and do it all by yourself. But again, I think on average, Celsius pays higher rates than almost any protocol, right? So definitely over a 5-year period, right? We beat any protocol on average rates. So so we might be a tortoise, but we're definitely going to finish the race, you know?
Cool. Well, I think that answers all of my questions for the moment. Thank you very much for having me up.
Yep.
Thanks for coming up, JJLs. Out of curiosity, what would you hope for or like to see on Cell Token roadmap?
What would I want?
Yeah. What would I like to see on the Cell Token roadmap? Calling me out in the spot, but I'll toss together a couple things real quick. So specific kind of, I'm going to call them premium features when you're talking about limit orders and such on swaps. I'd like to see that kind of a feature require users to hold, say, 1% of their portfolio in Cell Token, or, you guys could do it the same way as what you guys are currently doing with the tiering lists, where, they have to own a minimum of, 200 Cell Tokens or 1% of their entire portfolio in Cell Token to get access to that feature. I think that would be cool. Specifically, a lot of this is going to have to do with new products rolling out. Oren Blonstein previously commented on how you guys want to launch a DCA product tool with time-weighted average price, which would be the best in the business across all of the cryptocurrency industry, which would be phenomenal, especially with your guys' zero fees. To get access to that kind of a premium feature, again, you got to own 5% of your portfolio in Cell Token and 1,000 tokens, whatever it is, whatever you guys put together that way. Just with your guys' increased product rollout, just making sure that there is some favoritism that goes and channels value into the Cell Token with the products that you guys launch. Same thing with the credit card, but that's all obviously already going to be being put into place. Those would be kind of the first things that come to mind for me.
Yeah, it's an interesting balance. Yeah. One second. It's this interesting balance of we need to attract more users to join Celsius in the first place, right? So we have to be inclusive and have fantastic products that are going to bring users to Celsius, and then we have to have superior features or these premiums or these extra benefits for our token holders that, again, funded the company from day one and are our biggest supporters. They bring the most referrals, they bring tons of assets, and they share Celsius and are really the biggest ambassadors. So we have to give them an even better service or a premium or an additional benefit on that to show the respect and appreciation to our token holders. And that's the balance that we're looking for. We can't do too much on one side or the other, or there creates an off balance that isn't healthy for the company. Because at the end of the day, we still have to attract new users, new assets, and make money. But at the same time, we always have to respect the token holders and then attract those new users.
No doubt. I think that makes perfect sense. I'm not one of these people that's out here screaming for you guys to, start charging fees to everyone unless they own Cell Token, or to make it this toxic atmosphere whereby people that don't own the Cell Token or don't have an investment in it, all of a sudden are getting an inferior basic product suite.
Right.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, nobody wants that. Or, anybody who wants that, I don't think is looking out for the best interests of the company. But yeah, just these more premium features that you guys are going to be rolling out in increased amounts. I think that's the most appropriate place to be kind of showering on a little bit of that favoritism. Or, we talked about this previously at one point, but, like with your guys' free withdrawals from the platform or whatever, which is a debatedly sustainable thing in the first place. Value is always extracted from somewhere. So if you guys are paying those fees, that means yields go down for everyone, so on and so forth. But if that was going to be a long-term thing, just making sure that value doesn't get extracted from the Cell Token holders, or just a little bit of favoritism, but not too much that it creates a toxic atmosphere within the platform.
Got you. Just wanted to ask you that question, JJ. See if you had anything top of mind. Otis, you were going to add?
I disregard. I'll mention it another time.
All right. Thanks. Lucia,
Appreciate
you're up. Yep. Lucia, you're up next.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Loud and clear.
Okay, awesome. My phone also was starting to overheat. Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everybody. Alex, last week and at different times, you will mention how the ultra-rich never pay their taxes because they borrow money against their appreciating assets. And I was wondering if you could break that down for us, those of us who are not raised super rich, how to understand that, how to go about doing that. And also, thirdly, how do you do it within an environment with extreme volatility?
Yeah, sure. Well, I didn't say they don't pay taxes. I'm saying that they push their taxes out. They defer their taxes, right? So again, let's say you bought a house and you waited a few years and it appreciated in value, and you sell it because you need money for to pay your your kids' college, or you pay your credit cards or something else, right? So if you sell your house, you have to basically pay tax on the appreciation. So let's say you bought it for $1 million and you sold it for $2 million. You have $1 million appreciation. The government usually will take about half of that between state and federal and city and whatever other taxes you have. So instead of selling the house, you could take home line of credit, or basically refinance your mortgage, or take a second mortgage. All those things result in the same thing, which is that you're basically not paying any taxes. You're not giving anything to the government. You get money in the bank, and you can use that money to pay off bills or spend it in any way you want. So you're effectively borrowing against the value in the house, right? So the same way you can do with the house, you can do with your stocks, right? So if you have a Tesla and it went up 10 times, if you sell it, you'll give half of those gains to the government. But if you borrow against it, your broker will give you a checkbook or credit card that you can immediately start spending, and they'll give you what's called a margin loan. They'll give you a loan against that asset up to a certain level. And again, we're not saying you should buy more stock or buy Bitcoin with it or anything like that. It's all about kind of reducing your high, interest costs. It might be a car loan, it might be a credit card, it might be something else. But all these things result in the same thing: deferred taxes. Yes, you have a loan outstanding, but you have an asset that hopefully appreciates. And at the same time, you're borrowing dollars that depreciate over time. So if you basically, let's say you borrowed $100,000 and you waited 10 years to pay it back, that 100,000 is really only worth maybe 60,000 over 10 years, right? Because of inflation. So your asset, your house or your stocks continue to appreciate, and your loan, the value of those dollars is decreasing in value because of inflation. So those two things working together are what make rich people rich, right? So here we can do the same thing with crypto, right? The same rules apply to Bitcoin or Ethereum, and Celsius can give you a 1% loan. You can borrow money at 1%. Obviously, we all know inflation is more than 1%. So, obviously you will benefit from that. Hopefully your asset will continue to appreciate. Your Ethereum will go up in price, while the value of the dollars you borrowed will decrease. So even though you're paying your credit card, you still owe Celsius dollars, or you owe the community dollars. But the interest you're paying on those dollars is less than the interest or the depreciation of those dollars in the economy.
Okay, so you mentioned something here I was thinking about that made me want to ask you. So you said, okay, we can borrow against our Bitcoin or Ethereum here at Celsius, or I imagine our CEL token. And what if we all do that? What if every one of us in this room or in Celsius decides, I'm going to take a loan, to pay off my taxes, to go to Europe, to buy a new car, to whatever. What if we all do that at once? Isn't that going to impact Celsius's balance sheet in a negative way?
Well, we're in a business of issuing loans, right? That's our business. So will we have enough dollars to give everybody a max loan on all assets? Probably not. We're going to have to go and borrow dollars from somewhere else, because most of the dollars we get are in the form of stable coins from our community, right? We do have other lenders and other sources, but we rely mostly on, again, paying back to our community the interest that we charge our customers. So there is a point at which, yes, if everybody borrowed at 50% LTV, maybe we don't have enough dollars and we may restrict that program, but we're definitely not close to being there.
Okay. All right. And then another thing you just said that made me think with stable coins. So say I take a loan off my stable coins to pay my taxes this year. I'm not sure. I haven't done my taxes yet. I'm kind of avoiding it. But at any rate, I'm going to do it. Definitely going to do it. And if I have to take a loan and I take it, I borrow from my USDC, it's not going to, that is pegged to the dollar. So it doesn't appreciate. So am I thinking right here?
Yeah, taking a loan against your dollars is not doing anything, right? Because it's
right.
You're just using dollars against the same value. So what I'm talking about is taking a loan against an asset you think will appreciate over time, and you don't want to sell it, and you have a lower cost basis. So if you bought Bitcoin a week ago and you still have the same cost basis, and you want to sell it, there's no tax impact, right? Because basically the price you bought and the price you sold is almost the same, right? So the tax impact is minimal. So then it's an easy decision. Okay, you know what? I'll sell some and I'll pay my taxes. I'll pay my credit card. But if you bought Bitcoin at $1,000 and now it's at $40,000, again, you'll pay half of that to the government, right? So then you have to make a decision. Do I want to defer my taxes on the sale, not on what you owe the government, right? You have to pay that on your income. So do I want to defer it or do I want to pay it now? Right? And that's, again, you need to consult your tax advisor. You need to, obviously, there's a lot of consideration. I'm simplifying this just for this conversation. But if you have huge, short-term or long-term losses, then selling that Bitcoin may be just wiping out all those losses, and meaning you don't have to pay anything to the government, right? But for most of us, we have, gains, and we have to pay income taxes on all of that.
Yeah. I actually need a new tax advisor because my old one told me to stop buying Bitcoin.
Right.
Like, oh no.
You're fired.
Yeah, exactly. He's a nice guy, family friend, lovely man, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no. No, I do see into Bitcoin.
Sorry, I can't help you there. I'm not. I ain't no tax advisor.
No, I know you're not. I can look around. At any rate. Okay, thank you. I appreciate the thoughts about all this. Yeah, thanks. Okay, I relinquish the mic. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for coming up, Lucia. Alex, you're up next.
Hey, Josh, thank you for bringing me up. I had a couple questions, but I think I'd rather go with my comment. A couple days ago, I went into my Fold app. The Fold app is a Visa credit card that earns on Sats. And I was disappointed that I have more referrals for Fold than I do for Celsius. And then I realized because the Fold Visa card, there's no collateral, there's no risk. And it's so easy to sign people up and say, hey, look, you get Sats, Satoshis, Bitcoin for free. And there's no risk up front. You don't have to put up the $400 to invest. The good thing is that after a while, you say, hey, those Satoshis that you're earning, well, you can earn 6.5 on Celsius. And yeah, I had a couple of wins that way. But I think it's very critical that we do not delay the credit card any longer. And I say that because I see so many users out there. There's such a big group of potential customers that we could have already had. And there's many to be had, but I think that's going to be a great way to onboard users. Everybody knows Visa, and everybody has, credit cards where they have earnings, where they of different kinds, cashback. But when it's free Bitcoin and is no risk at first, then I think that's great. So just want to say that keep doing what you can and keep up the good work. You guys are doing great work, and I'm sure it was delayed for good reasons, but let's not delay it any longer.
Yeah, it's coming. And again, the other card help you save, right? They basically say to you, hey, spend more money and we'll give you like 1% back. So I know people are excited about 1%, but you don't get rich, you don't get the financial freedom if you spent 99 cents and you got 1 cent back and you think you're saving money on that, right? So we're basically saying, hey, how about you take $400, most of us can afford to save $400 and make that your kind of launch pad, right? You take $400, we'll give you $50 on top of it, right? So you're already at $450 and you'll be earning whatever, 7-8%. If you're earning in sell, it would be like 9% on top of it. And now you're really starting to build a nest egg, right? Versus go spend a few $100s and we'll give you a few Satoshis.
Yeah, the default card is a debit card, so you're not, getting ahead of yourself like a credit card, but it is Visa. And
you're still spending the money. It doesn't matter if it's credit or debit. You have to spend the money to get those sats.
You do,
right?
But I think a lot of people.
One is saving, one is spending, right? So complete opposites. So I know most people saying, "Well, I got to spend anyway," but that's the whole point. Is that if you just basically pull back on some of these habits, some of these decisions, right? To use Starbucks 3 times a day instead of 1 time a day, or buy an extra pair of jeans that you don't need, or take an extra Uber ride or whatever. All that money could be working for you, right? Day and night. You sleep, it's still working for you. Weekend, it's still working for you. You go on vacation, that money is still working for you. That is the piece that most people don't understand. We live in a spend society, right? Everybody spends every dollar they make, and they spend again $1 to get back 2 cents.
Right. Yeah. You know what? You make sense. But human nature, and in the U.S., you're right. We're a debt-based society.
That's what we're here to do. We're here to fix that human nature. We're here to convince people that just because they made money easy doesn't mean it's good for you, right?
You're right. Hard to argue with that.
Alex, did that conclude your questions up here on stage?
Yes. Thank you.
All right, thanks for coming up. Duke, you're up next.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there was any update on the $10 million Celsius liquidity pool that we were trying to get to 10 million so that there'd be an increased demand for Celsius or Cell token.
Zach, you want to take it?
We have been working in the background to make some progress. I appreciate the community members that have contributed to those liquidity pools on Quickswap. And then we've also found a path that I think is going to get us to that 10 million level. So very excited to do that and work closer with HODL and build that relationship and then scale that so that we can start generating a very serious amount of yield from Cell token backed assets.
How much progress have we made on that goal of 10 million?
The funds on our strategy haven't been deployed yet, but we have a path to get us to 10 million. And that should be in the relatively near future.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you.
Did that conclude your questions, Duke?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for coming up. Shaheen, I think you're up next.
Hey, Josh. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Josh, for the opportunity to speak. I just have an inquiry / request regarding the Celsius public API to get the rewards rates. I was just checking it on my phone, and It only shows, you know how Ether and Bitcoin have two tiers of interest rates or APY? The API only shows the lowest one. Is there any way that we could make the API support both tiers?
Yeah, I'll have to ask about that. I'll ask Brian, who would be our best contact on there. Can you DM me your email and we can look into that?
Sure, yeah. Thank you, Zach.
Yeah, Zach, let's just open a ticket on it.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good one, Shaheen. Thanks for coming up. Miami, Rhino, you're up next.
Yeah, thank you. Really quick, two things. One, I wanted to go back to Lucia or whoever it was that was asking. Asking about taxes. One other thing is that if you were to take a loan to pay off your taxes and you're doing that at 1%, you're going to be saving upwards to like 40-something% of your money. If you have to go out and you have to claim profits, or you have to work for that money, you have to pay that money back. You're actually paying a higher percentage. Let's say your taxes come to $10,000, whatever you have to pay, like your tax bracket, I don't know. It'll be cheaper for you to actually take a loan to pay off that tax than it would be for you to go and work for that tax money. Because if you work for it, you have to realize those gains, and then you still have to pay taxes on those gains. So you actually have to make another, let's say, 40-something% on top of what you need to pay the taxes back.
A situation I had personally that I could share. So I earned that sweet yield all 2021 with Celsius. And then I had to pay taxes on that yield. And I ended up just taking a loan against the yield that I earned in order to pay the tax liability I generated all last year. So I didn't have to take new money or work for additional dollars, right, to pay that. I just borrowed against the assets that I earned to pay off that tax liability. And to me, that seemed like the most efficient way to do that versus selling it throughout the year and then creating even more taxable events where with this strategy, in my case, I kept 100% of the assets that I earned in 2021 through Celsius.
Yep. All right. And then I have another question. Seeing that, you guys are looking to get into the NFT market, and I'm starting to see more and more NFT based real estate going on. Have you guys ever thought of maybe like an NFT custodial service that allows people to maybe like a custodian for a property / NFT or something like that? Well, I don't need me to explain more. I'm the idea I can, but yeah, that was the question.
Well, it's definitely a new and developing field. I think most of what NFTs are going to be still has not been invented or created. So we're watching it carefully, and we'll again, Celsius normally doesn't go in and do what everybody else does, right? We create kind of the next thing. So here we are waiting to see if we can invent the next big thing in NFTs. Looks like we're gonna have to punk everybody about that.
Yeah, looks like you have to what with everyone?
Punk everybody.
Oh,
That was a dad joke.
Also, crazy enough, Bitcoin just jumped to 41,250. Maybe there's some breaking news that happened, but spicy price action taking place. Maybe this was the bottom. This room marked the bottom.
100%. Miami, Rhino, did that conclude your questions up here on stage, or were you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Great Scott the Gamer, you're up next.
Hi, thank you for the forum, guys. I had a couple of quick questions, digging a little deeper into the borrowing process against the Bitcoin asset or other crypto assets. What other qualifications might be required, like income, credit, assets, etc.?
None of it. The beautiful thing about collateralized lending is that your collateral is your credit. So we have basically a near infinite ability to lend you 50 cents on every dollar of Bitcoin or Ethereum or Matic or whatever asset you have, and hold it with Celsius. So there is no other requirement besides it being available in your area and then having the collateral available. We don't check your credit. You don't need any credit. You could have 450 credit score and get a loan with Celsius today.
Okay, great. Can I ask a follow-up question or two? What kind of interest rates are we getting on that loan?
Yeah, we have three different interest rates on 50% LTV loans. It's 8.95 per year, and these are interest only, so you only pay the interest. There's no principal payments, and then it goes all the way down to 1% or less if you do a 25% LTV loan, meaning for every $100 of Bitcoin collateral, you borrow $25 against that, and then those are only 1% and less in some cases.
Okay, thank you. And my last question is, I think a lot of us have heard of this type of formula from the great Michael Saylor, but what we don't talk about is the back end of how will we pay that back without having to sell our crypto assets to do so?
Yeah, it's again, you're deferring, right? So you still are taking on some level of leverage, and you do have to do that very, very responsibly because crypto is still a very volatile market. And if you take a 50% LTV loan, there is a chance that you can get a margin call or even get pushed into liquidation because of the volatility. So it's not like we're saying there's free money available here, by no means, but what it does is it allows you to hold on to your assets that tend to appreciate and pay in fiat that is tending to depreciate. And again, that's not a strategy that's best for everybody, but it is a powerful financial tool that industries like real estate have been doing for 100 years, and a lot of people have accumulated wealth doing that.
But basically, there's no limit for how long you can wait, right? There's no IRS law that says, okay, no more than 10 years, right? So you can basically, for the rest of your life, borrow. Again, that's what billionaires do. Most people think that billionaires have no debt, but actually billionaires have the most debt, right? They're the people who borrow all the time. They own a lot of real estate. Like, Donald Trump owns a lot of real estate, but he borrows billions of dollars, right? He owes billions of dollars to Deutsche Bank and all these other banks that basically lend him dollars. Now that there's huge inflation, again, the real estate that he has appreciates, but the dollars that he has depreciate, right? Because the US government printed all this money. So owing money to banks or financial institutions is a good thing when there's inflation. It's not a bad thing if you are the one borrowing, right? Most of us just can't borrow $100 million from the bank and wait 20 years to repay it, or 30 years, or 50 years, or whatever. So Celsius allows you to do it as long as you have other assets like crypto that we just collateral.
You'll have to convince my wife on that one. I've been trying to tell her for a while. Don't be afraid of debt. Okay, thank you.
Well, yeah, I would say consider taking a very small loan. I mean, we do loans down to $100, and you can see if a loan of that size works for you, and then take it from there. It's not an all or nothing kind of thing.
And look, the mortgage on your home is a loan, right? What is a mortgage? It's just a loan on your home. It works exactly the same way. So when you take a 30-year mortgage, again, hopefully the value of your home appreciates, and the value of the dollars that you borrow decreases dramatically over 30 years. It's the same thing.
If my house depreciates by 50%, they don't take it, though.
Well, depends what your mortgage is, right? If you took an 80% mortgage, you put 20% down, and and you took an 80% mortgage and your house decreased by 50% and you can't make the payments, of course you'll take it. The banks in 2008, I don't remember exactly how many Americans, but several million Americans lost their homes. $22 trillion worth of homes were basically, that's the amount we lost just in during the 2008 recession. So 22 trillion, right? So of course they did, right? I mean, it's not, believe me, it's not like banks are your friends. You can't pay that mortgage, they'll take it away from you. They don't care. Went down 10% or 50% or 80%.
And even if your house appreciates, right, if you don't pay the mortgage, then they take it from you.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Maybe I thought if you said if Bitcoin's depreciated in value by over 50%, there might be a margin call.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so what you have is a loan to value. And you do have to watch that very carefully, because if it starts to go down too much, we'll ask you to either add more collateral or repay some of the loan. And that's what we want, right? The last thing we want to do is get anyone into a liquidation situation. That's the worst case scenario. So we work with all of our customers to prevent that as much as possible. And but you do have to be careful, because crypto is still extremely volatile, and 50% and even sometimes 25% LTV loans can get into margin call territory.
Or you can also borrow against gold, which you can borrow up to, I think it's 70%. Alex can correct me. But in this time frame, Alex has always told us that gold is something good to have. Now we see why, gold stands the test of time. You can also have some gold. You can also borrow against your gold.
You can't carry gold to escape your surroundings either. If you had $1 million worth.
We have digital gold now, so
digital gold is what we're talking about. Pays 5% tax gold.
3 gold-backed stable coins.
Thank you for the product. Well. That concludes my questions. Thank you for the product, guys.
That's why the golden rule is to buy Bitcoin.
No.
Exactly. Thanks for coming up, Great Scott. Austin, I believe you're up next.
Hey, thanks for letting me get on here. I feel like I got buried in Lucia's comments, but really good combo. If I could just share my situation or scenario that I did, hopefully it'll help people understand the idea behind borrowing against Bitcoin. So I've been using Celsius for, I think, over 2 years now. And only up until last year did I decide to finally start utilizing the lending aspect of it. So at the end of last year, I wanted to purchase a small commercial building. And so what I did was I went to my bank who wanted to fund it. And I showed them all of Celsius's information, how their loans work, how the margin call works, obviously my assets as far as Bitcoin goes. And even though it's a old school traditional bank, kind of like an old community bank, the VP of markets there was willing, I know this won't be everybody's situation, but he was willing to actually hear me out, read the documents and see what Celsius was, look into who Alex is, the company, everything, and all the background. And so they agreed to allow me to borrow my 20% down payment on the commercial building based on, the terms of the Celsius loan, on top of my holdings, so that I can show that I could afford to pay not only the commercial building, because the commercial building is projected to, to produce a certain amount of income. That income can also pay the small loan that was taken out to purchase it. And then also shows that the Bitcoin I have allocated to Celsius is sufficient for the 20% down, on top of actually paying a Celsius 20% loan. Or I'm sorry, don't get caught or mixed up in that, but enough Bitcoin to where if I, quote, forgot to pay, Celsius, it would be automatically withdrawn and that I'd be fine. So I hope that helps a couple of the people that were talking about that. Now, obviously we all have different risk tolerances, but if you're not overextending yourself with taking out that loan, like it was mentioned about the 50% loan to value ratio, or 55, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're going to get margin called. So it's not like you want to just, hey, you have one Bitcoin, you're going to borrow up to 75% or, just a huge amount of Bitcoin for your holdings. And then all of a sudden you get margin called because the market's volatile. But some of the scenarios that Lucia, you're bringing up is we're talking about utilizing that to buy assets. Buying a car would be a liability. So you're using your assets to be able to leverage to buy other assets that will all continue to build up your wealth. So that's what I got. I hope it helps. And I appreciate Alex and the team and the product. And I've been a happy Celsius client for quite some time. So thanks.
Yeah, that must be a really friendly bank. Must be a community bank, because I bet you it's not one of the big banks. The guy was really...
Yeah, it's a community bank. So both banks that I've used for my company, because it's a Bitcoin-based company, both have been community banks where they appreciate the walking in. They want to shake your hand, get to know you, figure out who you are, and then decide if they want to start banking with you, and then dig into your financial type stuff. So those banks are out there. It just takes a lot of time to go find them. It might take an hour drive to go to get to one, but they're there.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, and thanks for the great feedback, Austin. Appreciate you. GL.
Thanks, guys.
Yep, GL, you're up next.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Just a quick question to Alex. I know based on the rate decrease on Bitcoin, you had mentioned, I think your team was going to look into other ways to deploy the asset to try to create a little more interest. And I was just wondering if there was any update on that.
Yeah, so we are launching a third tier. So that's going to be kind of allowing people to earn more. So I don't know when it's coming out. Josh, do we have a date for that yet, or?
I'm not aware of a date coming up just yet. No.
Well, I think it's in the next 30 days. It's coming soon. So, we are launching some new strategies in the next 60 days. So those are, if we can scale them, then we'll be earning more, and I hope we can raise some rates. So it's
that'd be great.
Yep. So between those two, you'll see. Between those two, you should see some improvement.
Yeah, I know you always say it's not a guarantee, but it's like, when it drops in half, it was a little painful. And just a random question. I watched your last AMA in Texas. Is that a house that y'all work in? Is that what that is, where your location was?
Yeah, I bought a house in East Austin, and the team gets to work from there for free. So they love that. They didn't want to go to an office, so I just let them work out of my house.
I was like, that's a smart idea, even if it just seemed like it would be on brand for Celsius not to want to pay rent to some random landlord and just dip into the kitty and buy an asset, and just pay the small interest. And I was just wondering if that's exactly what you were doing, because I would have been like, well, yeah, that makes perfect sense why they're in a house. But either way, I'm sure it's a fiscally good deal for everybody. And it just looked like a fun environment. Everyone gets to hang out and bring their dog. And it made me want to have a job like that. Thanks again for
we're hiring in Austin. We have a few other locations. So definitely, you saw the team that work out of the house every day, but with similar environments in other places as well.
Yeah, no, you've curated a nice environment. It's funny, even when I listen to all the chats here and there, it's like sometimes I just like to listen to hear what everyone's talking about, and it's a unique thing, I will say. So, at any rate, thank you for everything you do. Take care.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us up here, GL. Daniel, you're up next.
Hey, I just had a suggestion about bringing in new users. Are you guys looking at the e-commerce space for merchants like Shopify to accept payment in crypto? So Coinbase has like Coinbase Commerce, and not sure if you saw last week that Stripe started to accept crypto again. Just seeing if that was something you're looking into to either integrate or maybe a competitor to that. Thanks.
Yeah, so there's a lot of vendors who promote payments in crypto. We are trying to be the opposite of that, right? We're trying to basically make sure everybody hodls. Like I always say that, show me a person who would not reverse a transaction in Bitcoin or in Ethereum from 2 or 3 or 5 years ago, right? Everybody would immediately choose to reverse all their transactions because obviously they overpaid for anything that they bought with Bitcoin. So we're not really in the business of encouraging that. We're in a business of giving you alternatives like loans to avoid spending your coins. So for us to promote people who not just help you spend your coins, but also take fees on top of it, would be kind of going against our business model.
Yeah, I'm more thinking of accepting payments as a merchant. Like if you're a seller, that you can be making money and that could be start to build your Celsius portfolio.
Yep. So Shopify has a partnership with Coinbase. So if you are opening a storefront on Shopify, you automatically get a Coinbase account.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, to see.
So they got pretty tight integration there, and obviously you can choose not to sell your coins on Coinbase and just ship them to Celsius. So that's you can have that. But right now would be just too much friction for us to go and try to replace Coinbase on Shopify, right? So I'm sure they pay them a lot of money to be there as a default provider. So I'd rather give it to you so you can give it to your friends, $50 a pop.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks for coming up, Daniel. Filthy Phil, you're up next. Phil, you there? Looks like you're having difficulty with your mic. Maybe restart the app and then come back up on stage. Lucia, welcome back up.
Yeah, hi. Hey, Alex, have you found the crypto vacuum cleaner yet?
The crypto what?
Vacuum cleaner.
I'm not getting the joke, sorry.
The joke is, when are we going to get rid of the dust in our accounts?
Yes, good. That's a good one.
How about that? The crypto vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, I like it. It's all Zach's fault.
It's not Zach's
Let's
fault.
blame. Yeah, let's blame Zach on that one.
He works hard. Well, we need to have it done before next tax season, because this tax season, when I downloaded my transactions from Celsius and the other places that I interacted with last year, I had so many transactions that came off of the what's now dust that I used Coinly, and I was bounced up to a higher level, and I had to pay more because of the number. Yeah. Okay. So next
I know
year,
somebody suggested even to allow people to donate it to the Ukraine, right? To give people two options. One is
do that.
Convert it to sell.
Yes.
And the second one is donate to Ukraine. I'll do a Twitter survey on what they want to do.
Well, whatever. I think donating to Ukraine is great. I'm down with that. That's fabulous. I just would like to get my dust out of there. I don't like dust. That's why I wanted to know if you had your vacuum cleaner around yet.
So, I think it was, Zach, it was stuck with legal or something. I forgot. What's hold up on this?
No, on the dust, it's a technical problem because you're constantly earning yield, and then our system pays, or calculates that minute by minute. And, but if we remove all of the dust right now, then you would still get dust the following week. So I think Nuke was working on a technical solution here, and we could do it all at one swipe.
Okay, whatever. Yeah, just
You
get
have to
that
do it on
vacuum cleaner.
Friday. Yeah, you have to do it on Friday at 5 p.m. or something. No,
Yeah.
like immediately, like right on the day where the calculation stop, like 5 GMT or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds good. All right. Thought I would throw that sad joke at you.
Sounds like someone's got a vacuum on right now.
Oh, there they go.
Lucia, thank you for joining us again up on stage.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
All right. Phil, looks like you got your speaker figured out. Phil, you there? I guess not. All right. Crypto Journey, you're up next.
Oh, hey guys, thanks for having me on. Just got a quick question for Zach or probably Alex. Hey guys, remember last year we had in September or October we had some issues logging in with Facebook. I've just been pondering, you reckon we all safe now for the future, or is it just probably better just to delete that account and create a new account with a new email address just to connect with Google?
Yeah, it's really best to use email is the best form. The accounts aren't compromised or anything, and there was a technical bug, and it was tough to fix because we don't have access to Facebook system, so we kind of had to work with them to get this figured out. But no, your account is fine, but I would recommend if you ever made a new account to do it via email instead.
Sounds good. We'll do that. Thank you.
Crypto, does that conclude all your questions up here on stage?
Oh, 100%. It wasn't a good idea to go through Facebook anyway, but anyway, no, I'll do that. I'll change it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Phil, we'll give you one last shot. What's going on, Phil?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
There we go. Yep.
Yeah, sorry, guys. Sorry about all the issues. I've just got a couple of questions. First, on if you to do CELpay, obviously for onboarding, on HODL mode we can't do it. Is there any plans whether to maybe do a minimum of allowing $20 a day or something, so you can do $21 CEL payments, or just it's just a hassle. I like to leave a HODL mode on. And it's a hassle to obviously wait the 24 hours, and sometimes you're going to miss the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, so we do allow you to have multiple accounts. So what a lot of people do is just move a small amount to a separate account. You can also use that account to kind of show to friends or family if you don't want to show them your balance, and then do all your CELpay right from there, right? So it's
okay. I've got a corporate account with so I'm allowed another account.
Yeah, you can open multiple accounts. Just use different email address for each one.
Okay, great. And also, second question too is swaps. Are they just not available in Australia, or because none of my mates or friends or anything have got them yet? Or is it just me not got them?
Well, we believe in long marriages, so no swaps. No, just kidding. Just I think we have it in Australia, right, Josh? I don't remember. It's open, right, in Australia. Just a question of verifying your identity
I'm not
or something.
I don't think that they have it in Australia yet.
All right, taking it back.
I thought that was the case. Yeah. Okay. Cool. We wait. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to wait.
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks for that, guys. That's it. Thank you.
Hang in
Sorry
there.
for the technical issues. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming up, Phil.
Cheers.
Well,
Thanks.
I posted the query of asking people if they want BTC CEL token, donate to Ukraine, or leave it as is. 140 people already voted, and 61% are saying they want BTC. So let's see. We'll let it run a little bit and see what people are voting for.
Awesome. Aziz, you're up next.
Oh, hey guys. I just was gonna comment on the mortgage question that was happening previously. Someone was asking about what would happen if your house went down in value like 50%. Odds are you're probably not going to want to pay that kind of mortgage back, just because if you owe $1 million on property that went down to 500,000, it's not like something that typically people do. And it's called being underwater. So I know that was a question before, and I just wanted to answer that.
Yep.
Thanks for. Go ahead, Alex.
No, I'm saying it's a good point that if you lost a big chunk of value, it's going to take forever for that the value of that home to go back to be higher than what you paid for it.
Exactly, and that's one of the better things about Celsius is you're borrowing with collateral as opposed to a mortgage where you don't technically own the house until you pay it off.
Yep.
Aziz, any other comments up here on stage?
No, that was it.
All right, thanks for joining us. John Q.
Yeah, I have a question for Alex. Hey, Alex, John out here in California. Hoping you guys make it out here one day. But the question I had, you mentioned multiple accounts were okay with Celsius, and that just got my wheels spinning here because my wife and I are sometimes frustrated, not having access to being able to earn and sell and not being an accredited investor. So, but we do have dual citizenships. And so my question is, can we set that up, dual citizenship as well, have an account in two different countries, and that way we could earn and sell in the other country?
Yeah, so again, we you have to tell us where do you live and where do you have residence. If you have a home and can prove that you live there, right? You have a proof of address, and you have a passport, then make that your residence.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Poland is on your list, right?
Yeah, I'm sure we have Polish customers. Yes.
Okay, yeah. That just got our wheels spinning because we're always trying to figure out a way, and it might help some other people that are listening as well. It might be a good option. I think we're going to try to set up another account then. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks for joining us on stage, John. Jason, you're up next.
Hey, Alex. I kind of can't believe this hasn't been asked yet, but any update on Onramps?
Yeah, so I think we're opening 5 states. I think it's like next week or something, and then we'll have a bunch of other states to follow. So again, you'll see an update on March 22nd, and you can test. Make sure you refresh the app and see if the new options are in there.
That's amazing news. It's going to be a great way to onboard. Thank you for the hard work.
Yep.
Thanks for coming up, Jason. Lucia, welcome back.
No, I didn't mean to raise my hand. Never mind. Sorry.
I thought Lucia took a loan and already paid her taxes.
No, I'm just sitting here hanging out. Actually, you know what? I do have one more thing. This is for the ambassadors. So today I was looking at some books on Bitcoin and Amazon to try to help Orange and Purple Pill, one of my friends. I ran across a book. Haven't ever read it. Don't know much about it, but I got great reviews. And it's called The Christian Case for Bitcoin. Bitcoin redeems money. How does this affect Christians and why should we care? It's a very pro-Bitcoin book. It's for Christians. It's got 5-star rating. The person's name is Dr. Melder. And I was thinking about our ambassador, Bobby, Mayor Bobby, we call him, who sometimes I think he talks to his church group, other people who might want to talk to other folks in Christian groups. I'm not Jewish, and I don't know about. I mean, I'm Jewish. I'm not Christian, so I don't know about this. But I just thought I would mention it for anybody who might want to talk to family members or church groups. It's called The Christian Case for Bitcoin. It's on Amazon. That's it.
Yep. Thanks for sharing.
Yep. Thank you for that, Lucia. The Code Slinger, you're up next.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Hi, yes, I'm a newbie Celsian, thanks to my brother, and also a software engineer. And I was just wondering, I heard Alex mention that the Celsius is hiring, and I did send in a resume back in December, but I haven't heard anything back. The recruiter said that he was going on paternity leave, and I've been emailing jobs at Celsius Network and also applying on your career website. So just wondering, what do you recommend to get some feedback back?
Where are you based?
California.
And you have crypto experience or just a general compute? Like
Software engineering, cloud data engineer, DevOps. So general experience.
Yeah. So send it to me directly. CEO at Celsius.network.
Okay. Will do.
Just include your specifically like your DevOps experience. I mean, we're definitely looking for DevOps. So
will do.
And I'll route it to the right people.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for coming up, Code Slinger. Good luck. Any other questions, comments, or feedback up here on stage?
I have one. Alex, Coinbase just rolled out a new exchange. I'm not sure if anyone in your saw it, but it's very, very nice. It's not on Coinbase Pro. It's on Coinbase, but you have to use a computer, and it's $30 per month. Any comments on that?
Well, what's the difference between that and Coinbase Pro?
It's just $30 per month, free trading. Just pay $30 for the entire month, and you can trade all you want.
Right. So again, the fees are in the spreads, not in the trading fees, right?
Oh.
So you have to, just because look, everybody, BlockFi says no fees, yeah, but they have like a 3 or 4% spread, right? So if you want to know if you're getting a good price or not, just compare it to Celsius. Just go try to do the same swap on Celsius and do it on Coinbase Pro and see who gives you more coins, right? Doesn't matter if you're buying or selling. It's all about who's giving you more coins. So that's really the comparison you need to do.
Anyway, you can tell us which states, the 5 states, or give us a hint, are going to have access to this fiat Onramp?
It's a state of mind,
Thank you.
I think it's going to be about a quarter of our U.S. users between the 5 states is a stat that I heard. So it's not going to be just 5 people in a room somewhere. It's
not Alaska.
Yeah, it's not Alaska, North Dakota, and Wyoming. But it's going to be a good chunk of users that are going to get access right away. And then again, like all our other products, we'll continue to roll this out until we cover all the people who are allowed to.
Scott, if you have a minute, just maybe explain to people like what you're doing with ambassadors, like the new initiatives and how you're supporting them and so on.
Yeah, we're doing quite a bit for the new ambassadors. So for those of you on the call who like to tell people about Celsius, the ambassador program might be a place for you. We have several incentives, and it can be things such as simple as talking to people about Celsius. We're issuing rewards for that, and that's something that almost ambassador program, because what we're looking to do is reward people for spreading the good news about Celsius and letting people know how they can increase their finances, how they can use the Celsius platform to benefit the ones that they love. So we have many initiatives like that. We have an online portal where you can log into and see some of the initiatives Celsius needs help with. You'll be given a username and password. You can log in and complete different tasks that we need help with. So the ambassador program has drastically changed. It used to be kind of just like a cheerleader group where people would come together and talk about Celsius and get excited. Now we have several different initiatives. We have things in place. We have an onboarding interview process to make sure that you're genuine. And once we verify that you do like Celsius and you do like spreading the word, there's a myriad of things that you can do and be rewarded for it. So highly recommend anyone who's interested in joining the team. And the best thing is about the ambassador program is it's a community. So it's a place where you can go for help. You can get questions answered. There's always someone online. We have designated chat rooms, and there's always people in there to answer your questions, to help you out. And it's almost like it's kind of like a family-like atmosphere. And the other thing, which I'll say is I'll drop a little secret that I'll just leak out a little bit, is several people have been hired full-time from the Celsius Ambassador Program. So I'm not saying everyone is, but I'm just saying that the ambassadors are being noticed. I'll just say that.
That's including me and you, Scott.
That's right.
It just took Josh a very long time to be noticed.
And me.
Everybody else got hired quickly, but Josh for some reason took a long, long time.
Yeah, Josh took a long time. Actually, I was there kind of with Josh though, because it took me about a year and a couple of months, and I would bug Zach all the time. I'm like, Zach, what's going on? I'm working hard for Celsius and for the community, and it just took a while. But several ambassadors have been hired a lot faster. Like we just had two recent ones. John, I don't know if he's in the room. Yeah, he is. I see him right there. John's in there, and Araceli, both of them were ambassadors. They got brought on full time. So if you're interested in what Celsius is doing, definitely give the ambassador program a look, and you can find out more information by going to the Celsius corporate page, celsius.network, and then go to the community tab, and then you'll see Become an Ambassador. Click on that. There's a quick 11 questions to answer on the questionnaire, and then someone will reach right out to you within 1 to 2 business days and welcome you into the family. So anyone interested, definitely give it a look.
And I heard Josh throwing a party in Miami, right? Is it going to be like the biggest Celsius party ever?
Yes, we're going to be working on making sure we have as many Celsians as possible show up to the Miami Celsius party. So if you're in Miami, make sure you guys are hitting me up to know where to meet up for this party. There'll be more to come on that.
Do we have a date? It's like April 6th or something, right? April 5th, something like that.
I don't want to say specific dates just yet. I want to get a little bit more information, and then I'll get it out to the community. But if you guys are in Miami, make sure you're hitting me up. You're letting me know, and then I'll be able to give you guys early access.
And stopping by the booth too. Come by, say hello, introduce yourself. You know, we talk to a lot of people online, and it's really, really great to see people in person. Come take a picture. Like, you know, a lot of this event is doing business, meeting connections, and furthering the company, but it's also connecting with the community and celebrating together and building that relationship.
Definitely. Yep.
On the last day of May, I mentioned that we'll be giving several tickets to the Bitcoin 2020. So if you want to win that one of those tickets, you gotta, between now and I guess the first week of April, you gotta sign up as many women as possible. So the person who signs up the most women, brings the most women into crypto. First you get $50, they get $50, and on top of it, you're entering this opportunity to get a free ticket to the Bitcoin 22 conference, and obviously attending our events is free. So you'll also be able to attend one of our largest events ever. They're expecting 60,000 people at that event, the conference. So we will, looking forward to see the winners.
And if you're interested in that contest, please send me a DM, and I'll make sure I get you all the relevant information.
Yeah, and like Alex said, the tickets to this event in particular it can get up to $1,000 or more. If you guys aren't capable of doing that or aren't interested in doing that, remember that the Celsius party is free. So if you're in the area or want to shoot down to Miami, just hop on a quick flight. You are more than welcome to join us at that party. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's not in the conference, so you don't need a ticket to the conference to come to the party.
Exactly.
Free alcohol too. So
you're really trying to sell it.
You'll have to do the AMA, Alex, before the alcohol gets served, or else you're gonna have too many talkers. You know.
Yeah, that's always the case. But this time we're getting extra powerful speakers to muffle out all of these yappers. I mean, definitely. I was just in Austin. We had a meetup over there, and the crowd was just talking and talking. I mean, it was crazy. So,
was it in Vegas?
No, it was in Austin.
No, what I'm saying is we have the same issue in Vegas.
We had the same issue in Vegas. But here I had a speaker, and I just put the volume way up so to muffle out all these, They definitely, the Celsius definitely love to talk. I can tell you that much.
Yes, we do.
Not the quiet bunch.
Bobby, welcome up to the stage. What's going on?
Yeah, I just want to apologize in advance for my. I wanted to thank was it Lucia, the lady who gave the info about the religious conversation, and please DM me that information, please, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to Alex for all that he does, and I hope you hear that a lot because you deserve to, Thank you for giving Scott the green light for the meetup initiative. It helped me a lot, and I'm sure it's helped a lot of other people. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much, and I'm just filled with gratitude. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
No, sure. And again, Scott, he didn't mention, but if you want to throw a party, you want to do a local event, we'll help you organize it. We'll help you pay for the food or drinks or whatever you want to do it. So reach out to Scott, and we want to do meetups, not just meetups when we're in town. You can do these meetups year round. And again, we'll amplify your message. So if you're throwing an event, ping me, and we'll post it and get people to come to your event. And as long as you're there to educate them and help them with their financial freedom, yeah, right. You can steal as many of my sentences as you want and claim them to be yours. All right.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming up, Bobby. Araceli, what's going on?
Hello, Josh, Zach, Scott, Alex, and everyone else on this call. I just wanted to come up and say thank you to Scott for this wonderful opportunity that he's giving me. I'm leaving my 21-year banking job, so I'm banking myself. I'm here to give it my all and to bring that community in that really, really needs this type of services, especially on my Hispanic community where, the peso is really devaluated and they have no exit. So I will be here to help as many as I can. And I will also be there, Josh, at Miami. Let's see how it goes. Hopefully you don't leave me outside the door. I'm just the little one there. I'm very, very small. So I'll try to, raise my hand or something so you can see me. But to exit our current financial system.
You're literally unbanking yourself. I love it. This is what can I say? Muchas gracias.
And also just real quick too, she doesn't give herself much credit. She is a huge resource for the ambassadors. She has brought in several people. She's brought in people from her community, from outside of her community. She's always there helping Celsius. And after seeing her impact to the community, I said, we have to get her on board. So I basically begged her to come on board. She decided to take the leap, and Celsius is going to benefit as a result of it. So thank you, Araceli, for accepting the offer.
No, it's an honor. Thank you so much. It's a wonderful opportunity I could not let go by, right? I have to jump out of the banking system since they're just not doing good. They're not doing good at all. They were not, along with my beliefs and how they're, with all those fees that they have in there. But one more thing I wanted to add, you guys, we have Mondays Twitter Spaces in Spanish with Santos. So if you guys know anyone that speaks Spanish, or if you have any friends or families, please send them over. Santos has Monday meetings at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and also the other Twitter Spaces with Javier and South Texan. He goes by South Texan, and Esteban, Monday through Friday. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Glad to have you on board, Araceli, and I look forward to seeing you in Miami. Alex, you want to top us off here? We're at the top of the hour.
Yep. So again, thanks everybody for joining. I know there's a lot of volatility out there, a lot of nerves. Watching the news definitely doesn't help. And, so I would definitely stay the course, right? You got to basically just close your eyes and ignore all this noise. Right now, it's kind of like we're in the eye of the storm, right? All the bad news that could be thrown against Bitcoin has just happened, right? Again, COVID exploding again in China, right? War in the Ukraine, Russia's going crazy. We have sanctions and shortages of metals and microchips and oil and so on. All these things are bad news, right? All that is already priced in. So if you're ready to throw a towel, you'll be throwing it probably at the worst time possible. There are chances that things are going to go a little bit lower, but there's super strong support for Bitcoin in that 33,000 level. So, so I don't see us going lower than that no matter what. And the sky's the limit long term. So the problem with getting out is that when you go to sleep, you can wake up and see that you missed a few $1,000s, just like what happened a few minutes ago, right? When Bitcoin just ripped, $2,000 in no time. So you just got to stay the course and decide if and when you want to add in a little bit, right? You can basically add over time. So your cost basis is spread over a longer period of time. And if you need to pay some bills, again, if you have some appreciation, don't give it to the tax man. Take a loan, pay off your debts, pay off your credit cards. Again, somebody was talking about a car loan before or buying a car. A car is a depreciating asset, meaning the second you drove it off the lot, it already lost 20%. And then if you're not using it for work where it's generating some income for you, like you have a pickup truck or you're driving Uber or whatever, if you're just using it for leisure, it's going to lose half of its value in the first 3 years, right? So it's not a good investment asset compared to like a home or compared to Bitcoin or other things. So you got to really think hard about where you're investing your money, and you got to put it into things that increase your assets instead of decrease your assets. So again, borrow dollars and invest them in good assets, right? Long-term value appreciation. So again, thank you guys. You make it happen. Again, thanks for the Celsius team who's here every Tuesday and every Friday, helping you with Q&A and answers. We do need at least one female on the team here. So Zach, I think you got the the message last week, right? Somebody told you, hey, you got to add somebody. So
Yes.
we got to add a female voice, exactly, if she can do it.
Yeah. Hey, Araceli's part of the team now, so that counts.
She was probably hoping for a quiet Tuesday nights, and you guys just ruined it for her. But we'll see if she can join. That would be great. But anyway, the point is, again, we have a special drive to bring women into crypto. You get the free ticket to Bitcoin 2022. It's going to be the largest event in Bitcoin history. We're going to be there with swag, with the largest booth on the floor.
As soon as we open these rooms, and keep up